fellow Toastmasters. I would like to turn things over to our invocation this morning by Dr. Lenhart.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Nice to see all of your smiling, healthy faces. Please bow your head. Heavenly Father, we come to you today to ask for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin our meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture our bonds of community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions that might affect our fellow Toastmaster colleagues here today. Help us to be present and compassionate and enjoy being together in this time and on this beautiful day. Continue to remind us that all that we do here today and that all we accomplish is for the pursuit of truth, growth, and excellence for the greater glory of you and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
All right, well, I would like to say everybody can mute for the pledge so it doesn't get all in one voice. So I'll lead the way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Before I get into what I have to talk about, are there any announcements from the floor? Well, really quick. I want to do on a side note, next, our Toastmaster after next week is Tracy, and I know she will contact people in the span of a couple of weeks. Tom, did you have an announcement?
Yeah, I just wanted to update you. We did have a meeting yesterday with the students at the high school yesterday. It may be the last meeting for a while. They're in a dilemma now where the thought is that they're all going to a virtual classroom now instead of students coming to school after the Thanksgiving break. So the status of that is unsure, but we're hoping that it will continue and will continue to improve. These kids are really coming along. They've had 4 meetings so far, and they're really doing well with the program. The speeches are good. The speeches are almost making time. The evaluations are well done. It's just they're improving each week. So I hope we can continue with it. Just an update, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Tom. That's awesome that they're doing so well with the meetings. Yes, Len.
We mourned the passing this last week of Marilyn Beam, former member, longtime member, and great contributor to our group here. I'll send around a link to the notice, and it's got a little bio on her. And I guess there are no in-person services, but people are welcome to make a donation to their favorite charity in her name or plant a tree. So just keep her and her family in your thoughts today.
Yes, thank you very much, Len. Yes, Kate?
Thank you, Len, for announcing that. I know as officers, we were talking about sharing that with the rest of the club this week. And I'm looking through our slideshow from last year's anniversary party for all the photos with Marilyn. If any of you have photos or stories you'd like to share, please let me know. We're going to compile something that we can share amongst ourselves and also give to the family from her time with us in Toastmasters so many decades. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank
David?
you, Kate. Yes, Dave.
Perhaps the club could plant a tree in her honor.
I think that'll be a good idea.
Something to mull over.
I
She
agree.
also was diabetic, maybe a donation to the Diabetes Association, because I know she used their services a lot too.
All right. All right. Good ideas. Thank you. All right, are there any other announcements from the floor? All right. I will turn the meeting proceedings over to our Toastmaster today, Phil Russell.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm glad I remembered my agenda. I almost forgot it. And people have memory lapses at times. And as we get older, it happens a little bit more frequently. Last night, Dave and I went out to check out the bowling alley. And he told me about this meeting or this movie on Netflix to tell Chris. By the time I got home, Chris said, "What was that Dave asked you to remember?" I said, "I can't remember. I forgot. All I knew, it came to me the Queen. Then after that, I fell asleep, came to me my sleep. Then this morning I got up and forgot it. Then we were talking, I remembered it, and now again I forgot it." So just an example of what happens all the time is we forget. But let's make a toast to the fact that we make our forgetfulness as minimal as possible. Hear, hear. Now I see Jen Zapla is here and I need a word for the day so we could get started with this meeting. Jen, what's our word for the day?
Hello, Phil. Our word today is to recollect, because when you've forgotten something, it's possible for you to later recollect it. So this is a transitive verb, and it means to bring back to the level of conscious awareness, to remind oneself of something temporarily forgotten. So I've gone ahead and put that in the chat, and I will be keeping track of your uses of the word recollect today.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good word. I hope I recollect that word, that movie that Dave told me. Now let's move on. We have an master, and I know it's Jill. How are you this morning, Jill? Are you ready to plant trees and more flowers?
I am ready to plant bulbs. I do have a few trees and stuff out there to plant too still. A few, yeah. My job as master today is to hopefully recollect at the end of the meeting all of the ahs and ums and filler words that people have used throughout the meeting, which can be very distracting. And let's see, yeah. I don't know what else. Plant the seeds of better speaking, as Steve just said. Okay. Yep. So that will be my report at the end of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Yes, thank you. We will be looking out for our ahs and ers. Grammarian, my worst subject in school. I hated it. Dr. Gerald Stevens, please make us like our grammar today.
I will do my best, Mr. Toastmaster, to give you a good report at the end on the good and bad things that I pick up to enhance my listening skills in the area of grammar. And I will hopefully recollect a few of those grammarian rules, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grammarian. Now, let us now move on, and we'll look for our quote master, Carol Ann. I saw Carol Ann is here. Carol Ann Halstead. Let's have a little quote, please.
Okay, this is a quote from John F. Kennedy. "We have the power to make this the best generation of mankind in the history of the world," which I recollect that he encouraged us for physical fitness. He had an aim to go to the moon. He started the Peace Corps and gave us all an interest in government since I was a teenager at the time. And I think I still remember most of his cabinet members because we had to do a report on that. Now, the end of this quote is, or to make it the last generation. I know at that time we had air raid drills and fallout shelters were talked about, and thinking of when the button gets pushed. But luckily, we're still here, and hopefully the present generation will straighten out this crazy country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I remember when Jack Kennedy did come to Lockport. Now, my friend, we were in 7th, 8th grade, around in there. My friend Dan LeGraff and I got in his house, grabbed an old newspaper. Then we went out. We had to have a stick about a yard long, because we rolled up that newspaper. But inside that newspaper was some of the best leaves we ever made. It's called a bumwad, and it was a giant bumwad that we made, and one had to walk in front of the other to hold the bumwad on his shoulder as we lit it and walked down to the parade acting like big shots. Of course, we weren't. We were little shots. So that's a good story. Thank you so much, Carol Ann. Let's go to our jester, always with a great jest, Thomas Heldwine. We're looking forward to it, Tom.
Thank you. First, your theme, I Forgot, is also makes me recollect Steve Martin's comedy bit, I Forgot. So if you'd like a funny laugh, that is hilarious. That you can use I Forgot to get out of many funny situations. But with the current election, I wanted to do some impressions for everyone with whichever person is elected president in the final count, and it's all said and done. What is their new internal department? Who are their secretaries going to be? So for the Secretary of Labor, we would have Mr. Burns. Excellent. Smithers, who are these people? They're the Lockport Toastmasters. They look like lazy, slack-jawed troglodytes, but I'll fix that. First, we round them all. Okay, enough from him. We have the Secretary of Education, who will be Emperor Palpatine. Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen. You need to embrace both sides of the Force. With each passing moment, you become more my servant. For Secretary of Energy, we're going to be using Mr. Tom Riddle. I no longer go by that dirty Muggle name. These days, I'm known as Lord Voldemort. There is no good or evil, only power, and those too weak to use it. Where is Harry Potter? For Secretary of State, it's Margaret Hamilton, who actually voted in this election somehow, better known as the Wicked Witch of the West. And she will be the Secretary of State. Other countries? How about a little fire? I'll get you, my pretties, and your little dogs, too. Where are my flying monkeys? Fly, my pretties, fly! And last, the new Attorney General will be from the Dark Knight, the Joker. Everybody likes it when things go to plan, even if the plan is horrific. I'm an agent of chaos. I like dynamite, gunpowder, and gasoline. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you much. That's a good one. I liked all of them. Now, before I go to the timer, I'm going to go to the gesture master. Now, Catherine Banks is going to have two jobs. Now, if we have a guest today, she will be also the guest master. I will let her describe both of these. It will start off with the gesture master, then the guest master will come after the three speeches if we have a guest. Let's welcome and understand what Kate is going to be talking about. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good morning, everybody. So a few changes after our officers meeting last week. After our regular meeting, we talked about how we've been learning from other clubs, different techniques, and visiting other clubs online. For example, when we said the speech, the pledge today, the pledge to the flag, Eric asked everyone else to mute so that we could smoothly recite the flag, and we all can still say it together, but the recording is clearer with the one voice. So we will be doing that moving forward. If anyone has suggestions about that, please let your officers know. The other roles that we're looking at is guest master. Now, for example, we don't have any guests right now. One of the clubs, our guest, Chris Lloyd Williams, came from London, and some of us visited his club. Their guest master introduces their guests in the middle of the club meeting before the evaluation portion. And it really is helpful because sometimes guests arrive late or must leave early, and we often miss connecting with them, introducing them, hearing about how they found us. And so we're going to try to test that out and see moving forward as we have guests, introduce them at the beginning, but briefly. We don't put them on the spot right away. We just introduce them and then move forward into the meeting, introduce the guests in the middle portion, and move on from there. My other role as gesture master is to watch our body language. We've added that role in some years ago when Charlie maybe visited another club and brought that back, I believe. So thank you, Charlie, for bringing the gesture master back. We're going to also evolve that role. So gestures are still exceedingly important in our communication as we are on Zoom. That has evolved. So moving forward, our gesture master will also be kind of a tech master. So I've already been taking notes on our presentation skills. What is your lighting like? What is your camera angle, your audio, the tech kinds of things we never really looked at before we're living in this Zoom world. And many of us need this for our professional and personal lives, and improving that's very helpful. And we've seen us all evolve since we started this back in April. So I am kind of three roles, but we'll see where that goes today. Guest master, gesture master, tech master, but please give us suggestions if you have ideas, and we'll split those up moving forward, maybe if there are enough members to obviously participate in that way. I didn't want to throw anyone on the spot though. So thank you very much, Mr. Russell, our Toastmaster today.
Thank you, Kate. Now, I recollect when I first started this meeting, my coloring was okay. Now I'm looking at myself and I'm an orange man. How did that happen? I can't figure it out. Now, I know that the lighting behind me is starting to come up with the sun, and I might turn off the light in front of me to see how that works. So, but right now we have to introduce another important person, the quiz master. Mark, I know you'll have some great questions for us. Mark Campos.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Good morning. As Quizmaster, my job will be to prepare a list of questions and test your listening abilities. So do your best to recollect the correct answers, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark. Now, a very important role, the timer. Ryan has been with us a while, and he is picking up everything so fast, I can't believe it. He's becoming a great Toastmaster. Let us hear about what our timing is. Ryan Floor.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. This morning, I will be keeping you to the clock so that you do not forget to stop talking. As we begin, our table topics will run 1.5 to 2 minutes, with green at 1:30, yellow at 1:45, and 2 minutes gets you the red light. For our evaluators, it'll be 2 to 3 minutes, with 2 minutes, 2.5, and 3. And for our speeches, typically 5 to 7, 5, 6, and 7. Hopefully I don't forget to count, and hopefully you don't forget to look. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. that being the topic, I remember Tom, where is he? Tom, when I said I forgot, he just all of a sudden, yeah, that's the topic. So that's how we got this crazy topic of I forgot. And we know because when I started off very young, your mother would say, did you brush your teeth? Oh, no, I forgot. How many times have you used the excuse, I forgot? I use it all the time. Sometimes it works and sometimes it does not. But the best thing I think is just use it anyway. Now, let's move on to an important part of our meeting. Eric, are you ready for table topics? Let's give it a whirl. Erik Schneider.
Mr. Toastmaster, thank you very much. Hello again, fellow Toastmasters. Now, how many of you have forgot stuff what you're supposed to do, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I've completely forgot to do that? I'll give you a little quick story. Every time I go to mom and dad's, the only things I forget is to bring the containers back that my mom put food in. So she goes, every time I walk in, I go, hi, Mom. She goes, did you bring my containers back? I go, and I drop a few swear words in between, which I will not do in this program today. But that's, yeah, it's not hi. It goes, did you bring my containers back? I go, no. Why didn't you bring them back? I don't know. So that's the brief history of me and my mother of forgetting why I forget to bring my containers back. So anyway, Larry McKenzie, what is your biggest pet peeve that you always forget? Larry.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. What is my biggest pet peeve that I forget? Well, one of the things that I must say that has bothered me a lot is that when I was young, I used to be really quick-witted, and my recollection was phenomenal. I could remember short-term and long-term, and especially when we were doing tests in school, I would read it and it would just sink in, and I could remember everything from that. I had to take a test at one time for an insurance license, and I studied and studied and studied and studied. Went there that day. I had so much knowledge in my head of what I had to answer. I froze when I started to take the state test. And I'm thinking, I know all the material. Why did I forget it? Well, I had to wait 3 weeks before I could retake the test and pay the fee again to take the New York State test. During that time, I was thinking, all right, I have to study. And then I said, you know what? I overstudied the last time. Didn't even think about it. Put all my books and everything aside. 3 weeks later, I went back to Rochester to take my test. And I scored an 87 and didn't even look at a book during that 3 weeks because the recollection was there. One of the things as you mature and get a little older in life that I have issues with now, and probably because I've had a few bangs around with my head, is that short-term memory is not quite there like it used to be, but that long-term memory seems to always come back. And with that in mind, my wife may not remember what I did yesterday, but if I did something 20 years ago, she seems to remind me of that every once in a while, just so I can stay on my toes. So to wind it all down, I think I forgot the question, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Larry. Tracy Farrell, tell us a time you forgot something that was really important, like example in your field of work. Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I'm finding that the older I get, the more I remember. So in order to remember things, I have to write them down in my planner or my book every single day. However, often I forget to open up the planner. So I go throughout my entire day on my business and didn't check off the things I wanted to do. As an assessor, a lot of times I'm put on the spot trying to defend my values or trying to defend my position in assessments. And I can tell you just this past week, we were talking with the company and they were saying, you know, this is why we're doing it. This is why, you know, this exemption wasn't passed. And I forgot to say, wait a minute, the exemption didn't pass because you didn't own the property. That was the obvious answer, but I couldn't recollect it at that moment. The same situation, they were paying millions of dollars and only wanted to be assessed for a couple $100,000. But I forgot to mention the purchase price in it. So there's so many times that when you're put on the spot, you can't come back and recollect all these important details. And usually when I go into meetings like that, I try to plan out what I want to say and what I want to get across, because I won't recollect it when I'm put on the spot. So the older I get, the more I don't recollect what I need to recollect. But I keep trying. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Mr. Licata. Dave, were there any time in a long, like, have you ever forgotten to do your homework back in the day? Because Mr. Licata.
My first question is, I have a bit of housekeeping. Does the Toastmaster of the day have all three of his speakers? Does
Yes, he do.
Oh, good. All right, now I'm eligible. Okay, I'm taking myself off alternate speaker and I will participate in table topics. Eric, the question should have been, when did I recollect that I did have homework? Because I found homework quite bothersome. And the weekends, it was terrible because now it's 10 minutes to 10. I should be in bed. I'm trying to remember what homework assignment I had. The other nights weren't much better. But as I recollect about homework, there's very little to share with you because homework was not my thing. And I'm overjoyed when I read in the newspaper that there's some teachers that are now taking the same stance. I think that was terrific. So we carried on, but I had moments, I've had terrible lapses, things that I forgot. And I'm just like the rest of us, you forget these things. I'm swiping my phone here looking for the timer. Oh dear. No, that's okay. We'll just take it one step at a time. I recollect, though, I do recollect because upon my mother's being deceased, I did receive a whole cardboard box full of notes that she saved that came from teachers. But the highlight from that was that in those notes was a copy of a test, and I had finally got 100 on spelling in 8th grade, and it only took me 8 years to achieve that. Mr. Table Topics Master, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Can I get a word master report, Jen?
Yes, so far our word of the day is doing excellently. All three of our table topics contestants used it multiple times. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. And Ryan with our timers report.
Good morning, Mr. Table Topics Master. I am pleased to report that all three of our table topics contestants did qualify and that no one went over or under time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Larry will post a poll in just a few seconds. And now I would like to turn things over back to our Toastmaster, Phil.
Thank you very much. I'm just putting in my ballot, submitting it, and I am ready to go. The reason I'm the orange man is because I have a light up in front of me. Now, when I'm at my office, I have a beautiful window in front of me. I'm at the opposite side. I'm looking into the house. The light turns me orange. I tried it. I used now you're going to get blinded. I went to that, but it was distracting. So I decided you'll have to put up with the orange until I get out the fluorescent light that I have, a circular one that I'll be able to use in the future. And it was a gift. I'm looking forward to using it, and it will be fun to use. Now, let's make sure, has everybody done their ballot? Great, great. So you're going to have to put up with the infamous orange man for a while, simply because I have that light in front of me and it makes me orange, and there's nothing I can do about that. Or else I'll become even more distracting by using the bright light of my phone light. Now we're going to switch over to our speakers. That is a very interesting topic today, because we have three very, very interesting speakers. Our first speaker is going to be Beth Banks, and her evaluator is going to be Martin Johnston. Marty, are you ready to tell us what Beth is going to be doing? Marty Johnston. Are you there, Marty?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. And the project is research and presenting. It's a 5 to 7 minute presentation. And the purpose is for Beth to research and present well-organized, well-researched speech on any topic. It may be informal, it may be informational, it may be humorous. And it's as I said, it's a 5 to 7 minute speech. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Marty. Now, one of our newer Toastmasters, she's ready to present. 5 to 7 minute speech. If you didn't catch that, Mr. Timer, she is progressing so fast simply because she's a teacher. And years ago, when I was coaching, one of the great professional coaches said, the best coaches are teachers. So she's going to teach us. Now, it is from Pathways. It's the dynamic leadership. And her title is this dementia? Beth Banks.
Thank you, Master Toastmaster. We all forget things from time to time. How do we know if that forgetfulness is something normal? Is it serious? According to the Mayo Clinic, dementia describes a group of symptoms affecting memory, affecting thinking, social abilities, severely enough that it interferes with your life. It isn't a specific disease, but several different diseases may cause dementia. Having memory loss alone does not mean you have dementia. Alzheimer's is probably the one we all fear the most, but that is not the only cause of dementia. Dementia is actually caused by damage to or loss of nerve cells or their connections in the brain. According to the National Institute of Aging, everyone loses some neurons as they age. However, people with dementia experience far greater loss. While dementia is common as people grow older, they say up to half of people 85 and older have some dementia problems. It is not a normal part of aging. There are types of dementia, including Alzheimer's, Lewy body dementia, frontotemporal disorders, and vascular dementia. It is common for people to have mixed, possibly they have 2 or more forms of dementia. All of these need to be investigated by a physician. While most of the ones I listed do not have cures, there are some conditions that mimic dementia that can be improved or reversed. According to the Mayo Clinic, we might be able to control the following risk factors for dementia. Diet and exercise. Oh, haven't we heard that before? Heavy alcohol use, cardiovascular risk factors, depression, diabetes, smoking, sleep apnea, and vitamin and nutritional deficiencies, vitamin D, vitamin B6, vitamin B12, folate. They can all cause or increase your risk of dementia. In addition, the NIA includes other risks, maybe some that you wouldn't think of. There are certain medicines that cause side effects, emotional problems such as stress, anxiety, depression, blood clots, tumors, or infections in the brain, delirium, a head injury such as a concussion from a fall or an accident, also thyroid, kidney, and liver problems can cause dementia. If you suspect you're experiencing dementia, you really need to consult your family physician, who may send you to a specialist in the field of neurology. A medical assessment for dementia generally includes the following: taking your physical history, physical exam, neurological tests, cognitive and neuropsychological tests. They're going to test for memory, for your problem-solving ability, your language skills, your math skills, other skills related to your mental functioning. A doctor may include laboratory tests, a brain scan. All of this may sound scary, but if you are experiencing some signs of dementia, I would encourage you to seek professional help. Before I retired in 2013, I was experiencing some symptoms that made me very concerned, including transposing numbers and letters, which is difficult as a math teacher. I wrote the incorrect letters, particularly when writing on a vertical surface. As a teacher, what do you write on? You write on smartboards. You write on whiteboards. You write on chalkboards. They're all vertical. In addition, I was experiencing some memory or recollection problems. Some of you may poo-poo the transposing numbers. My husband did. I transpose numbers all the time, but I didn't. And that's the key, that if you are experiencing something that you did not do before, okay, red flag, red flag, red flag, go do something about it. My primary care physician sent me to the Dent Neurologic Institute. I'm very thankful for that. They did numerous tests, including an MRI. Didn't like that very much. And the neuropsychological tests I spoke of earlier. After going through that, they concluded that my problems were stress related. Stress. I was shocked. I had no idea that stress could bring on symptoms like that. Oh. So I began a little journey of self-evaluation. And I realized that, okay, I was under stress. A big part of my stress was my career. I realized that I needed to change some things. All the arrows were pointing to retirement. And so that's what I did. 2013, I chose to retire. I do know now what my tells are, especially writing the incorrect letter. And I know that at that point, I need to do a little self-evaluation and do some things that I know will calm me and get me back on track so that I don't have those recollection problems anymore. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
I'm going to have just about 1 minute of silence so you can type something of a recommendation or a suggestion for Beth. Just take it, put it into the chat, let her know what you think. Give her some positive feedback. It will help. Moving forward, the orange man has found our second speaker. And our second speaker will be Charles Deacon, and he will be evaluated by Stephen Smith. Stephen, are you ready and able to tell us what she's going to be doing?
Well, yes and no. I really have no knowledge of what his speech is today. I have a generic evaluation form so I can evaluate him, but I have no knowledge of what he's going to talk about or how long.
I will help you out if that's all right.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. This is something that I must congratulate Charlie on. I was not a big fan of Pathways, but I dove into it. And Charlie has Deborah helping him with the computer. And he is diving into Pathways. And I give him a tremendous applause for that, simply because it's a new challenge that we all take on. And Charlie will be giving a 4 to 6 minute speech. It's basically an icebreaker out of Pathways. I don't have the path he's following. However, it is from Pathways. It's an icebreaker, 4 to 6 minutes. It will be timed properly, Charlie. You don't get away with no timing at this point because you've done this before. You're experienced. And the title of Charlie's speech is Good Morning, Father Deacon. Father Charles Deacon.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, Steve, I did send you an email. I must have used the wrong email address. So, but I did send it to you. I did the same thing with our Toastmaster this morning. I sent him my thing and it didn't get to him. He called me. So I'm sorry. Good morning, Toastmasters and Mr. Toastmaster. I grew up in Quincy, Massachusetts, and we went to an Episcopal church there. As I was growing up, I became actually I was involved a lot of it. And I began to think, I want to be an Episcopal priest. And my uncle, Harold, was a priest, and he baptized me. When I was in Boston, when I went to Boston University, I told my rector, Father Porteous, that thought I might want to be a priest. He liked that idea. And he suggested that we go and talk with Bishop Nash. When I was a junior in BU, my rector and I went to see the bishop. And after taking some exams, he suggested that I come back to him the next year when I was a senior. I did that. And when I went there, I got an awful surprise. He wanted me to go into the military. When I left there, I was angry and I was almost crying. The next day, I told my rector, I'm not going back to him again. Now, I went and found out from the draft board that when they were going to call me up, and that was December, and I decided I'm not going to wait. So I volunteered for the draft. I took my physical in October, and it became 4F. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Can't go back to the bishop. And as I was trying to find out what I was going to do, in our Quincy Patriot Ledger paper, I saw the Granite Trust Company is looking for a teller for our main office. The person must take and pass an exam, which I did. Passed it, but never heard anything from the bank. At a Christmas Eve service, I ran into a friend, Wally Wilkinson, who happened to work at the bank. Told him my story. The next week, I was hired as a night deposit teller. I went from night deposit teller to assistant head teller to head teller. Now, whilst I learned something at the bank. You need to know sports, especially the scores. And that's true today. You gotta know that, especially around here. Now, during the time, and then on one afternoon on a Monday, the bank came to me and said, "We want you to be head bookkeeper. We'll send you to Chicago for training. And you have to take it for a 5-year term." Now, whilst I was working, Bishop Nash died. Another bishop was elected. And I heard from the bishop, and he wanted to see me the Saturday of the same week that the bank wanted my answer. I had an awful time that night, that Monday night. My rector was away. I spent a lot of time praying. The next morning, I decided that I was going to tear that down. Saw the bishop on Saturday. He said, "I want you to go to seminary." I started seminary in September in 1959, 3 years. Went there and graduated in 1962. In 1962, in October, I was ordained a deacon. For 6 months, I was deacon or deacon ditto. On August of, from April 27, 1963, I was ordained a priest. And I've been a priest for more than 55 years. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Charlie. Let's take a moment to send some comments to Charlie, just some positive comments. Show him we appreciated his speech and how he can improve on his presentation. Now, let us proceed. Len Thornton is going to evaluate Jackie Kenney. And Len, are you ready?
I thought I was ready.
There you go.
Now my computer's freezing up here. Let's see if I can get the notes back here.
You might need an IT professional, Len.
You know, it was working fine until this very moment.
Is that a job for the tech master? Kate, you're up.
Yeah, my browser crashed. I had Jackie's speech on a page there, but it's not coming up. What to do here? What to do?
Well, from the tax point of view, always have a backup system. Never forget, because technology has its own pitfalls. So I would encourage everyone to have a backup on a piece of paper, even handwritten scrolls, so that if computer fails, you are still on target. Thank you.
Len, I'll be more than happy to be your backup.
Okay, if you have her description, I know her speech is 3 to 4 minutes, and I know you have the title, but I will let you give the description, Mr. Toastmaster.
That's okay. We have a backup there, Moklas, and thank you for, that is a great suggestion. I have another suggestion after this speech. Now, Jacqueline Kenney. Yes, Jackie, I am the angriest orange man you've ever seen, but not as angry as you might get when Kevin and I would come wandering in at about 6 in the morning, totally inebriated, and you would be the most angry, red-faced person on the earth. But that's how well I know Jackie. And we had a great time together and we found memories. But let's get to this speech.
Mr. Toastmaster, I now have it. We've recovered.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Jackie is doing a project from the Pathways entitled Deliver Social Speeches. It actually consists of 2 3 to 4 minute speeches. She'll be doing the first one today. This project addresses the skills needed to compose a speech for a social occasion, including a toast, eulogy, an acceptance speech, and a speech praising an individual or group. The purpose of the speech is to practice delivering social speeches in front of your club members. As I mentioned, her speech is 3 to 4 minutes long. So I guess the timing would be 3.5 minutes, and 4. I know you have her title, Mr. Toastmaster.
Yes, thank you, Lenny. See, we'll always make up for it in Toastmasters. That's the great part about it. We can be multi-flexi changeable at any time. Now, that's not my original. Tom Hanley had that years and years ago. Multi-flexi changeable. Write it down. From Pathways, Dynamic Leadership, and 3 to 4 minute speech. The title, Miss Jacqueline, just share your screen. Jackie Kenney.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Being a Toastmaster means working hard, giving back to the club, supporting other members. Sometimes we take for granted those members who do a little bit more to support our club. Today, I want to bring to your attention 2 members who deserve recognition. I will now offer a pan of praise for a member who helped with tech skills and our new Zoom meetings. He has supported the slate of officers, even when he was not in office himself. My first award is to Tech Wizard Extraordinaire, Len Thornton, Advanced Communicator Gold. The next member I'd like to recognize is someone who very quickly took up the challenge when we were locked out of Tom's Diner. He's been hosting our meetings at his own expense well before District 65 met the challenge and provided Zoom for clubs. And that member is Zoom Master Extraordinaire, Larry McKenzie, DTM. Both Len and Larry have encouraged the rest of us to conquer Zoom. They've spent a lot of time helping people, giving their knowledge to others, and encouraging other members to improve their Zoom usage, to enhance the way they present themselves at Zoom meetings, and to calm a lot of fears that people have had about this format. It has been very difficult for some members to come up to the challenge of Zooming, of being technologically more advanced than they ever expected to be in their life. And so I want all of you to join me in thanking them and making sure they realize how much we appreciate everything that they've done for the club. We missed very few meetings when we were first locked out of Tom's Diner. I don't know if it was 1 week or 2 weeks, but I don't think it was any more than that. And we couldn't have done that without Larry and Len taking up the challenge. So I am toasting both of them. And I hope you all will join me, raise your glasses, and give them the praise they deserve. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jackie. I want you to take a minute to give any comments to Jackie that you might have. Try to keep them so that it's encouraging, upbeat, and positive toward her. Very good. I'd like to have a timers report now on all of our 3 speakers. Mr. Timer, Ryan.
Mr. Toastmaster. Luckily, I wrote these down so I do not have to recollect their individual times. I am happy to say all 3 of our speakers qualified this morning. Beth at 7 minutes and 5 seconds. Charlie at 6 minutes and 23 seconds, and Jackie at 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. Now, I think the screen will come up right now, and you can check your box, which I have just done, and submit it, and it will take over. Now, one of the things I did not forget, but I have been, what should we say, remiss at following some good instructions. Pat Panfile, some of you may have heard of him, some of you may have not. He's past international Toastmaster of Toastmasters International. He was a professional speaker. He actually was from Rochester, New York, and one of their speakers through the Rochester, I believe it was Kodak, if I'm not mistaken. And a great speaker, a great friend, wonderful person. He gave me some ideas. Number one, this orange stuff. Jackie made it, get a different light source. Yes, that has to change because you have to check it out first. When you're doing a speech, go up to the lectern before you give a speech and check out. If you're not familiar with it and you're in an unfamiliar place, go up and check it out. Speak so that somebody can at the end of the room can hear you. Test it out early in the day. Second thing, don't drink ice cold water. It'll give you a grasp. Same thing with hot coffee. Now that one I forgot, and I've been drinking hot coffee. The other thing he said, don't drink alcohol. He said at the most a half a glass of red wine if you're giving a speech. Don't do like Mr. Kenney and I were coming home at 7 o'clock in the morning, totally inebriated and going to a Toastmasters meeting, and it does not work. Those are some highlights that Pat taught us in a speech, and I couldn't believe I still remember that and recollect everything because he was such a phenomenal speaker. Now, at this time, I'm going to reintroduce Kate Banks. We don't have any guests at this time, other than maybe Tom Moran, but he's not a guest to me. But I want her to describe again. He's just a regular member. He's my cousin. And he's got the best eyeglass gestures I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's amazing. Kate or Beth, I get the two of you sitting side by each, and I go, oh God, you look alike, you are alike. So Kate, please describe to us again, guest master.
So the guest master will introduce our guests moving forward and make contact with them during the chat privately to encourage them to sign up on our guest book online. And we can find out from them then personally, briefly, kind of in an interview, a brief interview, how they found us and will they return again. A very simple kind of a way to connect to our guests moving forward. I may keep that role for a while. I specifically as VPE did not assign myself too many roles, but I would be happy to have anyone else who's interested be the guest master. And moving forward for the next quarter, I'd like that to be something that rotates for anyone who's comfortable with that. Is that what you're looking for, Mr. Toastmaster?
Yes, and the description, because last week, I think it's a great idea because we've had guests from all over the world, everywhere. I can't believe how many people have come from the different continents in our great world. And this is great. I'd like to remember who they are. When I go out to people, I describe, hey, we had a meeting and there was several people. One was from Germany, one was from Africa, one was from the other side of the world in Australia or New Zealand. I can't even remember where. And who invited them? And how did they find out about it? I think it's a great idea. I do. Now, I did not forget you, Sylvia. We are going into the evaluation process. Would you like to introduce the evaluators and carry out throughout the meeting, or would you like me? I'm going to give you the option. I know you're relatively new to that job, so I'm going to give you an option.
Well, I will do as much as I possibly could do. I might lose internet connection. I'm waiting for a rug to be installed in a room where my Wi-Fi is, and I'm afraid they might unplug me. They're not here yet. They told me they would not come to 8:30, so I'm hoping they.
Are you ready to introduce our ready for our evaluators?
Continuing as you are, and I'll evaluate you and the evaluators later.
Okay, well, that's fine. I wanted to give you the option. Thank you so much. Now let's move on to the evaluation part of our meeting. And let's start off with Marty Johnston, who is evaluating Beth Banks. Marty Johnston.
You may want to come back to him. It looks like he has lost connection again.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Let's go on to our evaluator number 2. That would be Stephen Smith. Are you all set, Stephen? Let's get going. It's on to
Okay.
Stephen Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you, Charlie, for a very interesting icebreaker this morning. You did the very purest intent of an icebreaker. You told us about yourself. Now, some of us have heard some of this story before, some of us haven't, so it's great to reiterate all of this. Now, right off the bat, you had said that you'd sent out this information. Now, I never got it. I don't know what happened or why, but that's just part of this whole deal of getting used to this stuff, I guess. But I did manage to get a form to work off of. Now, right off the bat, you started telling us how you come to be where you are. And that's something a lot of us can relate to, because a lot of us at that point in our life said, well, I'm looking at 2 or 3 things. Which way am I going to go? And how's it going to affect my life? So it was very relevant to all of us. You talked about being discouraged about going into the seminary. You talked about going in the military. That's my first note of improvement. You mentioned that you were 4F. Now, we both know people who were in the military, so we understood that reference. I think you should have explained to people that might not what 4F meant. That's just a small thing, but I think that would have helped. Then you told us how you worked your way up in the bank and you came to the big moment where you had to decide, am I going into seminary or am I going to take this promotion in the bank? That's good stuff. That's a life story. It was a big decision in your life, very much a part of who you were and would become. Then you finally decided to go to seminary, and you had some humor in there. You're talking about Deacon Ditto or Deacon. And I often wondered about that, so thanks for explaining it. And I very much enjoyed your speech. It had a nice progression to it. Now, I thought that you weren't paying attention to the time. I should have known better, because you wrapped it up very nicely at the end. You came in time. And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it came across very smooth. So I thought that was well done. Now, as far as any improvements, just the one about explaining 4F, a couple of times you were looking down at your notes instead of the camera, and it seemed like you got a little lost a couple of times. So a little more rehearsal probably would help. Other than that, it was a very well done speech, and I thank you very much for bringing it to us today. Thank you.
Very good, Stephen. Now, our third evaluator will be Len Thornton. Len will be evaluating Jackie Kenney. Len, are you ready?
I am indeed, Mr. Toastmaster. Jackie, what a treat. I appreciate these different types of presentations wherein it's not just a standard 5 to 7 minute speech. This one had a purpose and you achieved it wonderfully. You excelled at conveying the attributes of the recipients. You gave us a little background on myself and Larry and why we were being honored in this fashion today. Your slow, deliberate style gave added importance and meaning to the presentations as well. Very good pace and very clear enunciation. Good use of props as you held up the certificates, maybe hold them up just a little bit longer. And you included our proper Toastmasters titles, which of course was appropriate. You had good context on the speed at which our club rose to the virtual meeting option and contrasted that with the district's somewhat slower response. One thing you may want to work on, and I say this in virtually all of my presentations, there's always room for more humor. Call me out on my browser crash a few minutes ago, or Larry on his ever-changing virtual background. Just introduce a little bit more humor. And if you really want to challenge yourself, stand up, pretend you're at an actual event and you're using your entire image to give the presentation. All in all, a fantastic public speech. Well done.
Thank you, Lenny. I don't see Marty. He's not returned.
He's back. He's back.
Oh, he's back. He finally made it. Where do I see? Oh, there he is. He was hiding on us. Marty, you can't be hiding on us all the time.
No.
We need an evaluation. That evaluation will be of Beth. Go ahead, Marty.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. I temporarily lost connection. Temporarily. I was trying to recollect what I could do, and I almost made a connection on my cell phone. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning, Beth presented to us a well-researched and a great presentation on dementia. Beth, I feel that you continue to improve. I've seen you over the past year, and I can tell from your comfort level and your language that you're comfortable presenting. You mentioned about being a teacher and writing on the different boards. I definitely can tell you're a teacher, you're very organized, and you're comfortable in front of the audience. I like the fact that you stood while you presented. I think a lot of us have gotten away from standing, and I think standing lends itself to more open gestures and wide gestures, broad gestures. You use your hands to make points, which was great. When I spoke with you before the meeting, you mentioned to keep an eye on a couple things, tone, pacing. And I feel you did fine with that. I don't feel you were racing through the speech. Matter of fact, you had 30 seconds buffer remaining in your speech of seven minutes. A couple things to work on. I would suggest the use of a pause. And in these couple places, I would suggest a pause. Talk to how to control and then the risks. If you could possibly pause between those to help the audience further digest what you said, that would be helpful. A minor thing would be vocal variety, possibly when you're talking about your personal stories, about concerns of dementia for yourself. Oh, not that you have dementia, but you mentioned something about writing on the board and throwing up the red flag, possibly a little more vocal variety there. And then back to the red flag, if I may suggest just another minor detail, possibly have the red flag either to your left or to your right, and actually have a red flag, like something, even if it was on a stick. Those would be my recommendations, and my challenges again would be to pause between the main points and to continue to work on vocal variety. Best of luck in your remaining speeches. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, all of our evaluators. I would like now a timers report. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. With the evaluators, Marty came in at 3 minutes, 19 seconds. Steve, 2 minutes, 32 seconds. Len, 1 minute, 31 seconds. Now, could somebody refresh my memory, as I cannot presently recollect? Is there a 15 or a 30-second buffer on our evaluators?
30.
Well, then the good news is all of our evaluators have qualified this morning from a time standpoint. Mr. Toastmaster.
Right, now, please vote for your best evaluator. I did mine. Now, let's move on. Before I move over to Sylvia, I am going to start introducing some of ours. But Sylvia, I'm going to save the word master for the very end after you speak. Is that all right with you? Very good. Let's move on. I need an master report. Our master, Jill Roaring. Are you ready, Jill? Give us some Oz.
I am ready. I heard no Oz to speak of today. I did hear some so's. Not to Edna's degree. I didn't count them that much. I caught you and Jackie each doing one fill. Eric used now as a filler word. Charlie Deacon used some ums. And Phil, I noticed it might have been your way of pointing out something, but you often stretched out your ings as if it was a way to go running and not really go running. What's an hour without saying, as Steve said. That is my report. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
I'm sorry, I had to unmute. Dr. Stevens, our grammarian.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Try to apply my listening skills this morning. I did do a decent job of it for a change, but not super thorough like Margot. So for you guys, you get a abbreviated report today, which I always find merciful at times. So we start with the positives. Tracy, I don't recollect what I need to recollect. Love that wordplay there. Phil had multi-flexible changeable. Thought that was pretty cool. And Jackie said a pan of praise. Thought that was good vocabulary. I assume that means a broad amount of praise. For improvement, Eric, he did say, how many of you forgot stuff? I thought maybe how many of you forget things might be a little better there. Beth said, misspoke, said Master Toastmaster. I believe that was an error there. Maybe Mr. Toastmaster might have been what she meant. And Phil said side by each. So that is my report. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Did we lose him?
We did. I'll jump in because I have a few things to share in the interest of time until we get Phil back. As gesture master, I think everyone has seen good gestures and our evaluators gave feedback about the gestures. So I'm going to jump into the tech report and then some announcements as your VPE. So for the tech report, we have a little time now, so I'll be thorough, but moving forward, it will be up to whomever does these reports, what they would like to share. So first, we'll go to audio. I think our pros today with their headsets are Mark and Nancy. Nice job. And Tracy often uses her headset. I just didn't see that today. For virtual backgrounds, we know who is skilled at this, but I'd like to give a shout out. Len, awesome background for our club. I used at training and also when I visit other clubs. He emailed that all to us, but if you need that background with our club on there, please ask Len. Of course, other virtual backgrounds from Larry and Margot and Moklis and Thomas. Well done. Good backgrounds that are not virtual. Dave, Jen, Tom, Ryan, Phil, I liked your curtains. Oh, we have you back. You had to move to a different space. I liked your curtains, but I learned last week that we should avoid sitting in front of windows because the light behind us can darken our features. Back to the rest of us. We have to be mindful. We have some distractions, whether they're doorways or other things behind us that may be a distraction to our watchers. And then to wrap up with the announcements before I give the floor back to our Toastmaster of the day. Officer training is this weekend. Eric and I had our officer training last week. All the rest of you, register in advance. Don't register at 8:55 a.m. because they still need to send you the Zoom link. So register today. They'll send you the Zoom link. You can roll right into the meeting. It's 9 to noon for our officers. And it was a good session. I think you'll get some things out of it. Second, social hour tonight. I'll email out the link. Larry will probably put it in the chat if he didn't already. Then 2 announcements as VP of E. We are 1 month away from our holiday party. It's scheduled for December 17th. Very sadly, Marilyn won't be hosting. We had talked about doing something with Marilyn, and so we will definitely memorialize her. Now, last year, Tanya and Ishmael ran our meeting. They are also not with us right now. And so we're talking, if anybody has interest in hosting it, let me know. But what I'd like to do is we've been averaging 20 to 25 members on our meetings. I'd love for all of you to think about what you could share virtually that would take up to 3 minutes. A poem, a blessing, a memory, a video, a song. So I'm charging each of you with up to 3 minutes so we all can share something about any holiday that we wish. We will take off the next week. It's Christmas Eve, but the following week was undecided. It's New Year's Eve. Our officers have decided we'll make that a New Year's Eve party that morning, and also our contest. More will be coming in the emails, and I'll give the floor back to Phil. Just a heads up, and check your email, everybody. All right, Phil.
Thank you so much, Kate. I lost part. What can go wrong will go wrong in technology. I did not put, I was relying on battery power, something, probably the lighting, everything went kaplooey. But we just have to be multi-flexi changeable and get right back to it. And that's what I did. I really appreciate, Kate, for you taking over. That was terrific. How far did we get before I turned it over to Sylvia? Because I forgot my paperwork. I forgot everything. I'm telling you, this was the perfect title for this meeting. I forgot.
I just kept the floor to myself. I was very selfish. We can hand it over to Sylvia if she wants to wrap up the final.
Quizmaster.
Quizmaster, do you want to do, Sylvia, would you like to do the Quizmaster after you're done, and then let the word master? It's up to you.
Mark could do his quiz master, and then we need to do the word report also, how the word did for the day.
Okay, let's go with Mark. Mark, you do the quiz.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Phil, I am quite relieved to see your natural color return to your face. I was absolutely convinced that you were sitting underneath a heat lamp because your color was very much reminiscent of convenience store food that has been sitting under the heat lamp a little too long.
Oompa Loompa.
Let's get into the quiz, shall we? Who did Carol quote this morning?
John F. Kennedy.
Oh, JFK.
Correct.
JFK.
The item that Phil and his buddy would carry on their shoulders and light on fire. Why would you do
It was
that?
a bum wad, but that's a rare item. You have to be from the North End.
Is this really a thing?
It's newspaper, and you take it when you don't have anything to smoke, and you roll crushed up, you grind up the leaves and put them in there. You can use all kinds. Chestnut is good. We like a combination of chestnut and maple. And I learned that down in the woods in Alcott.
No wonder you're orange.
No wonder you're orange.
Okay. Eric, what did Eric always forget?
His containers, his Tupperware.
Yeah, and let me just say, for my wife and her family, this is very much a big deal, so be careful there, buddy.
Eric, she won't give you any food.
What type? I'm sorry. Especially if they're Pyrexes, forget it, you're in big trouble.
Yes.
What type of test did Larry take twice?
Full service?
State test?
Insurance.
It was a state?
You said Larry, I thought you meant Charlie.
Driver's permit test.
No, it was my securities test, my insurance.
Okay.
Oh.
How many years did it take for David to achieve 100 on his spelling test?
8th grade? 8.
Has
Eight
he?
from eight.
Eight is the correct answer, sort of, but I did 5th grade twice.
Oh, okay.
You didn't explain that.
No.
All right, what year did Beth retire?
2013.
Correct. What college did Charlie attend?
UB,
Boston College.
Boston University.
Boston University, not Boston College. There is a difference.
Screwed up.
And lastly, during what years did Charlie attend seminary?
62, 63.
Nope.
Oh, 59 to 62.
Now you are correct. And that concludes the test. You all did very well in recollecting the answers, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quizmaster. Now, where's our word master? Where's our word master? I think believe that. Jen, we right here?
I am. I'm here.
All right.
I think
Recollect what we did.
I can. Our word did fairly well today. I've heard Phil, Jill, Gerald, Carol, Thomas, Mark, Ryan, and Marty use it, in addition to our 3 table topics contestants. It did fall off a little bit briefly. I did not hear all of our speakers and evaluators use it, but at the end, you all picked it back up. So excellent job, folks.
Thank you much. Sylvia, you have just enough time. Wrap her up for me, please. Get it over with.
I would love to. This group is very humorous in the morning. It is worthwhile waking up at 7 a.m. like your slogan, and I had a good time. And Phil, you brought that humor in with you. You had it going from the beginning all the way to now introducing me. I was getting worried that you were going to forget me, but you did not. So the evaluators today, I have a few comments on each one, very short. Marty, if you can, Kate did bring it up earlier with tech. Stay away from windows because it's very hard to see you. You just get a ghost image around you. And your evaluation of Beth was really good. I wrote almost the same thing. So standing up, she used the camera very well. I like the red flag because she moved herself right into the camera, got our attention if we were drifting, which we weren't, because it was a very good speech. I found it interesting. Great on time. I could tell that Kate quizzed her on that. And her facial gestures, I thought was pretty good. Evaluator 2 also had a good suggestion. I didn't think of this, and we do this at work all the time. Use abbreviations when we're talking to people and assuming that they know what we mean. And that F4 or 4F, I did not know what that meant. So that would have been a good way of elaborating on a little bit. But other than that, Charlie, I liked using personal experiences and speeches. I think that hits home with everybody. It draws this crowd, I know, into you in every speech. Evaluator 3, Len, also telling Jackie she has a good style. She uses her voice calmly, and it was a sincere, and we do mean it. Len and Larry, we do appreciate all the tech things that you have brought to us. Good suggestion about the humor. I didn't think of that. But I'll tell you, Jackie, I wish I had you in my 5.5-hour webinar on Tuesday because you used the camera, like I said, really well. These ladies did not, and they were terrible on Zoom. I was dying. I was in the background saying, you need to go to Toastmasters. You need to. I almost sent them the link. It was that bad. But other than that, I love everybody's using hand signals. We need to do that since we're muting ourselves. And I think that is it. I am done with my evaluation for today.
Take it away, Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster Phil. Fellow Toastmasters, gives me great pleasure to announce our winners today. Our table topics winner today, and she's not here, but our table topics master winner is Tracy Farrell. Our best evaluator is Len Thornton. Congratulations to Len. And we have a tie for Best Speaker of the Day. Beth Banks and Jackie Kenney, congratulations to them both. Are there any final thoughts, announcements? Yes, Tom. I'm mute.
I'm looking for the mute. There, I got it. In the general evaluation, I think it was overlooked at today's meeting, the outstanding gestures or jester master that we had this morning. I thought Thomas did an excellent job, took us all by surprise with the jest. It was not just a joke, but it was, he put some time and effort into that, and I appreciate that. It always makes for a good meeting. That's
Thank
it.
you,
Thank
Tom, for that. You're right. I had that. I ignored several of my reports. My report was so long. But Thomas, your audio was great. Your sound was cool because you kept switching voices. You really worked at that. Nice job.
Yes. Nice job, Thomas.
I was wondering why we can't just clap. Would it be too overwhelming? Why do we have to do the hand?
So yeah, what happens is for people who have headsets, if everybody starts clapping, it blows your eardrums out. And so I wondered the same thing at our training last week. They mentioned that. So,
because I think
the way they all come in at different times.
And everybody's clapping sounds different, and it sounds like a cacophony instead of
forget to unmute, and you hear dog barking in the background.
Yeah, and they also said that some clubs do laugh tracks or applause tracks, but if it's a very moving speech, like about dementia or someone who passed away, and then the laugh or the audience track is like, great job, like that sounds awful. So it's about timing, and it's about appropriateness. So it's a good question. Maybe, do you want to wrap up the meeting, Eric, and then we can stick around for post toasties and chats?
Yes, I do. Guys, from my family to yours, happy Thanksgiving, wherever you guys are celebrating. And I wish you all many blessings for a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you guys back in a couple of weeks. Meeting adjourned. Stick around for post toasties.
Did we say who the Toastmaster is for the following meeting?
Tracy.